Hello, work wifey. Welcome to another episode of Dear Work Wives. I'm Adrienne.
And I'm Emily.
And we're here to create work cultures that don't suck so much. So we have a lot to talk about.
We really do. Because the work cultures, they just keep trying to suck.
I know.
We're here to change that.
You sent me a TikTok story that I think we should talk about first.
Yes. And then I also want to talk about something that's going on at Bravo. Don't let me forget, okay?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I don't, but you know.
No,
maybe I don't like what's going on, but I love talking about Bravo.
Totally.
So you sent me a TikTok this morning. We'll link it in the show notes as well for people who want to watch the full TikTok. But it was a story about a mom who basically got a little slap on the wrist, slap on the hand, whatever you call it, for taking her PTO, which we've just recently talked about, taking her paid time off, like not pre-planned, right? And the reason she did that is because she had sick kids on it was 3 days, right? Yeah. So she had sick kids on 2 of the days, and then she was sick on 1 of the days. And so she was getting reprimanded for using the PTO in like a last minute type of scenario.
Right. But when you read the comments of the TikTok, they don't have sick days. They just get PTO. And if you take a sick day, you have to use your PTO. And I have worked in the past like this. We got 3 weeks of PTO / sick days. So if you took a sick day and you wanted it to be paid, it came out of your like PTO allotment. And it was I just in my head looked at it as like 2 weeks of PTO and a week of sick days because I have children. Like I knew that I was going to need 5 sick days throughout the course of a year. So
yeah.
It's not like uncommon structure, but it is like, I didn't realize you could plan when you're sick.
Yeah. So it's like, well, if you're not going to give sick days, then how do you expect them to use the PTO in a planned way?
Right.
That's impossible.
Like, impossible.
So this woman was very upset, like really understandably so, because she's just thinking about how the system is not supportive of her as a mother, right?
Yes.
And as a human. Like she also got sick on 1 of those days. And so it's like, well, what is she supposed to do? Like I'm not planning for that. And so I think though that once she maybe is less emotional about it, like there's a response here that is like, what is the expectation of how we take sick days then? Like if you would like for us to, make sure that we plan all of our PTO, but we don't have any sick days and our PTO is technically supposed to be used for our sick days, then what is the solution? Like I would really love to know what her supervisor believes is the answer, because it's very confusing to me what someone would like her to do in that scenario. Like make them explain it to you, similar to what we've talked about in the past. Like when something is wrong and something is not right, like make them explain it to you, because there is no explanation for this unless there is, and then maybe we'll find it. But
I mean,
based on what we know, like there's
they basically told her she needs to find another backup for care for her kids. And I was like, I'm the backup. No. Like they're in daycare. That's the care. I'm the backup. Right. They're my children. Cool. Like
they're my kids. And I don't want to expose other people to their sickness either, or other children to their sickness. And they're sick. I want to be there to care for them. They're my children. But what about when she's sick? Like, so that's why it doesn't add up to me, because like one of these days she was sick, maybe from her kids getting her sick, or maybe because it was just a totally separate instance and she was sick. So like, well, I'm not coming to work if I'm sick. So also what's the difference? Like
post-pandemic world, like I don't no, please stay away from me. Like the amount of,
Right.
I thought we learned that we don't go to work sick because then we get everyone
Yeah.
else sick. Look at how easily it spreads.
Yeah.
Oh man. It's
So I
wild.
think that, they're saying like, oh, you need a backup for your kids. I think there's even still more pressing to do there of like, well, what about me? Like, what about when I'm sick? What am I
Right.
supposed to do with my PTO and my sick days when I'm sick? Like, how do you want me to submit for those? Like, let's
Yeah.
just say I live in a fairy tale world and I have some backup that you're,
Also, I'm not calling the kids' grandma to watch them when they're sick because I don't want to get grandma sick. Like, I don't understand. It makes no sense. Like, if our house is sick, like, no one in, no one out until the sickness is gone,
Yeah.
Yeah. Blows my mind. There's like no solution for it because it makes no sense. It's one of those, there's no advice to get. I mean, beyond press and make them really vocalize, oh yeah, like, you just can't be sick is essentially what they're saying. You just can't be sick. It's like, well,
yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like, well, so what they need to either do is separate the sick days from the PTO so that it will be more clear. Like, okay, this is not like unplanned PTO. This is my sick day.
But also, just on that note, okay, so say you get 5 sick days. What if I'm sick 7 days?
Then you have to take your PTO, right? But then it's unplanned.
Or it's just like unpaid, and that's, there are definitely companies that have a maximum of sick days. And then if you get really sick, then it's an unpaid day. Okay. That doesn't mean I'm going to come into work though. And if the issue is that there's no coverage for me, like I could be sick for 15 days. What, are you going to fire me? Because that sounds like discrimination. Maybe there's some legal precedents. I don't know. I should probably learn these things, but like, what if I get mono? Be out for weeks. I never had mono as a kid.
A max of what they can handle, because I know there would be a max for like what our company could handle. There is likely maxes because like, what if someone gets cancer and they like can't do their job for months or something? It's like, well, at some point they're going to have to fill that.
But we're not firing that person,
right?
Like, what if someone on our team got hit by a car and was out for like a month? We're not firing that person.
Gonna rely on like short-term or long-term disability, which is a healthcare thing in the U.S. at least.
Yeah, I guess for independent contractors, like we could temporarily hire someone to fill that space until they're able to work again.
Yeah, because the company and I, someone correct us like in the chat if we're wrong on this, because we definitely could be wrong on this. But from my limited understanding of like short-term, long-term disability, it's like the individual would have to have coverage
like
for that.
Yeah.
And not the company. It's not the company's liability to continue to pay the salary. It's like that's when the short-term, long-term disability would kick in.
Come in, totally.
And then you're getting probably a % of the salary, not the full salary probably.
Yes, but then your job is still safe.
Yes.
You can come back to work. Yes. Unless it's long-term disability, in which case you can't, but.
Yes. But yeah. That's my like very limited like arm's length understanding because I've never personally dealt with it myself. So, but that's...
It's wild though. But like I'm saying, you get
for it. Like we pay to have that just in case something happens to me and I need to have long-term disability, Yeah.
But imagine like you get emergency surgery because your appendix bursts or something, and then you have complications and you're out for like a week and a bit, and then you come back and you get in your 6-month review, you get a slap on the wrist for having emergency surgery. I just could never. I'd be like, okay, well here's my 2 weeks notice then. Bye.
So my friend didn't necessarily submit this story, but I'll share it anonymously that like I have a friend and her husband was on like a work trip. He was, pretty high up at his company doing a great job. He was on a work trip and he fell during the work trip, like out of a bunk bed and had a brain injury. Like he like because of the fall had a brain injury. complications from that brain injury. Like it took him a while to be able to like fully get back to work, you know? And eventually he did end up getting let go from that job, but a lot of it was related to like some of the complications from his brain injury, like being forgetful or not having like full capacity, and like maybe he was unable to perform at the level he used to, you know? And like legally they went through a whole thing, but it's a little fishy, right? Like, oh, like he literally, it's also like he got hurt on the job. Technically, he was on a work trip.
Workers'
comp. They were paying for in a house that they were paying for. He undergoes an injury that is technically like under their supervision or whatever. And now his performance is lower than it used to be because of said brain injury. And so it's like, well, can you fire someone because of that? Like, that's a little wild, right?
I think here you'd have to give accommodations. Interesting. I mean, the legalities, I can't pretend to know, but it makes no sense. This particular, I felt so bad for this person because she just wanted, she was just taking care of her kids,
Also,
for it to be, I think she got a verbal warning that she had to sign. So it's like on her record. It's not just her manager being like, hey, like, what's going on? But even 3 days in 6 months, it's nothing.
I know, it's nothing.
Especially, my kids don't get as sick as often anymore, but they're getting older. But when they were little, like, my gosh, they were sick all the time.
Like at least once a month. So it's like,
yeah.
And that's usually for multiple days. So I'm honestly surprised she only had like 2 kids sick days, 1 personal sick day in 6 months. Like that's pretty low.
I used to love when my kids would get sick on Thursday because like, okay, well, we'll take Friday off and then hopefully you're good by Monday, Right.
I know. Like either a Thursday or a Friday is the best day to get the call home.
Yeah.
Or like,
yeah.
Like, all right, we'll just quarantine all weekend. Hopefully you'll be good to go by Monday.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. Tell me about the Bravo stuff now.
Okay. So I don't know if you've seen the drama with Brandi Glanville on Bravo and the Ultimate Girls Trip that never is going to air.
Something about sexual harassment or something of someone
else.
Yes,
there was a lawsuit of sexual harassment by Carolyn Manzo against Brandi, right? And there's a lot of she said, but ultimately Brandi is being portrayed as a sexual predator and like crossed the line. We'll never know what happened. And regardless if Carolyn felt uncomfortable, then that's what it is. But Brandi has now countersued Bravo against Andy Cohen for trying to proposition sex on a FaceTime or something like that. And is now making claims that like Andy Cohen does cocaine with his favorite housewives and he plays favorites. And all of the comments of people are like, so Andy parties with his friends, because he's not actually he's not their boss in any way. He's just talent like they are, like.
Yeah, now he is.
Now he is, right? And
he's
so
like the creator of the franchise, but now he's like
he stepped out of those roles. He just does the reunion and he does Watch What Happens Live. So my question about all this, is the line between bosses or coworkers, like doing extracurricular, not even necessarily nefarious extracurricular things, but just
not even like illegal drugs,
right? But just like and having some friends being more friendly with some people than others, and then the ability to like turn that around and turn it into drama. I don't know. I just felt like it was an interesting, maybe because we're friends, and I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, obviously, I just thought it was like. I'm not surprised at all that Andy would be partying with some of his favorite housewives. There's hundreds of them. He's going to be friendlier with some of them than others. And if what they do in their own time, regardless of is there, they're all adults. But I'm like,
Yeah, that's really my opinion too. Is like, I mean, he's gonna connect more with some people than others. He's known some people longer than others. Like some of these
it's
people
like
he's
15
known for like
years.
15 years, right? And so of course he has history with them, he has memories with them, he has, shared experiences with them. Like some of them have helped him, throughout becoming a father. Like they probably know his kids, like he's gone to their weddings, like all of these things. Like he has become a part of people's lives as a friend and a coworker or
Right.
even a boss in some ways, over the years. And I don't
Yes.
think that that's necessarily inappropriate unless they're being, treated differently in the workplace by Andy. Like if Andy had the power to like only give those people certain raises
Contracts
or
or,
something
yeah.
like that. But I don't think that, I mean, I have very limited information on like how the back end works, but I don't think that Andy is responsible for those things, right? Like I think that he doesn't make their salary decisions, or
Yeah.
I think probably Andy's friends also with a lot of people that more like friendly with a lot of people who are continue to be on the show because they are fun and like good personalities to be on the show. So there might be like some correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation. Like there might be this assumption that because they're Andy's friends, they become the favorites. And so therefore they stay on the shows for longer. But it's like, it's probably because he's friends with those people because they've either been on for a really long time or they're fun people who have good storylines. And those are the people he just happens to get along with. But it has
Right.
nothing to do with him necessarily keeping them on. And I don't even think that that's what she's accusing him of. It just sounds like she's mad that he's partaking in social activities with people that he knows from work. But people do that all the time. Like people partake in social activities. I mean, the cocaine aside, like, is she trying to get him in trouble for nefarious activities, or is she just trying to like, because remove the cocaine from the story, and what's the story? That he's hanging out
Yeah,
with people?
that he's more friendly with some than others. And there's the claim like those are the people who are the favorites. But I mean, this is not a Bravo podcast, but consider the source. This is Brandi Glanville. She was given so many opportunities to become a favorite and she just could
Yeah.
not. So it's giving scorned.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like it's a salacious headline just because of the cocaine.
Yeah.
But it really has no legs. Like who cares? He's friends with some of the people he works with.
Yeah.
So am I. Like,
So am I. Yeah.
I
Friends
just
with everyone I
think
work with.
I think that that's just natural too in any workplace, which I understand that there's certain challenges once you have, like a hierarchy or things like that. But there's going to be people at workplaces that you get along with and you hang out more with than others in your personal life. And I just think that that's normal. I mean, heck, I married one of the people I worked with, like
Yeah.
I used to work with Tyler. He's now my husband. So obviously I hung out with him more than other people. I liked
Favoritism.
him. I married him. You're playing favorites. Why didn't you marry everybody? But like I wasn't in charge of like also giving him promotions or things like that. So I can see like, okay, there are complications to that where you can remove some of those challenges, but I don't see an issue here. I think that, she's jealous. And so she's trying to find dirt on him. And I'm sure she's probably done some cocaine in her life. So she should probably lay off.
I feel like people on TikTok are saying like this is the like Andy's about to get canceled or something, like this is the demise of Andy Cohen. And I'm like, I think that he extricated himself from any legal record. He doesn't do the hiring, he doesn't do the scouting for talent. Like he literally is an executive producer because he started this franchise forever ago, or this concept, and he does Watch What Happens Live in the reunions. Like he's like, I'm not legally I'm not your boss,
Like I'm literally talent just like you now.
Yes. He's just perceived as a person of influence at the network, and so because he's Andy Cohen,
Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought it was interesting because there's been so much happening in the Bravo universe these days that We haven't talked
Yeah,
about
I saw
forever.
another like thing this morning. I haven't like fully dove into it, so I don't think it's a topic of full conversation. But I saw Leah from like the New
Yeah, yeah.
Housewives of New York filing some lawsuit against Bravo as well for
Yes.
like for work conditions or something. Like
Yeah.
basically that the producers encourage nefarious activities to create drama. But
Yes. People
I
are
don't
saying that about
know.
this season of Love is Blind too, that there was a lot more alcohol than
Oh,
normal
interesting.
because people do more entertaining things when they've had a few drinks. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I think Matthew, you know, the guy he left after like episode 2, he left. He
Yeah.
was saying part of the reason why he was so awkward is because he lives a sober life. And so there was so much alcohol that he was just, it was a very
Uncomfortable.
challenging environment for him to be in. So anyway,
Interesting.
yeah.
I mean, I can understand it being like a challenging environment to be in, and then you just leave. He did a couple other things that were a little suspect. So.
Right. It's a very convenient excuse.
But also, like even if they're putting alcohol in these places, all of these people are adults that
Have
can
free
also
will.
make the choice and have free will to not drink if they don't want to. So that's what I don't understand of like the blame and like responsibility. Like, is it them not wanting to take personal responsibility for like their actions? And also they signed up for this in terms of like knowing, like it's no surprise what the show is, you know, like especially for those women who are newer. It's like you see the show, so if you don't want that, if you want something different, then maybe don't do that show or make a decision to not drink on that show, and that's fine too. That's your choice. I mean we're really getting into Bravo here, but like I just was watching Beverly Hills season
Right.
from this year, and Kyle made a choice this year like
Yeah.
to not drink. She didn't drink the whole season, so it's like you can do that. You can choose not to drink, and they're not gonna make you. So I'm like, who is to blame
I mean,
for?
like Luann had to have a sober season because of her parole. Like
Yeah,
you don't have to
she wasn't
drink
fired for that.
ever. Nobody ever has to drink. Just
No.
anything or take any substances that they want. I mean, could never be me because I like Prosecco too much. But I literally put that in my team information form. It's like, what's your favorite beverages and snacks? And the first thing I put was Prosecco. But like not in excess, but I just really enjoy a mimosa, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So
wow, that was a tangent, but I'm glad we did it.
big tangent, but here we are. Today, most of our stories are going to talk about poor communication in the workplace. So this is our theme. Poor communication challenges, and how to handle them, or who's in the right, who's in the wrong, what should we do?
Okay, let's do it.
A few stories from my friends this week. So isn't that fun?
It's so fun.
I get personal texts.
But like I didn't send you these stories, so I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, it's like because you're my only friend.
Earlier when you said like my friend's husband had I'm like, that didn't happen to James. Oh, just made up a story.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
I made it up. These are acquaintances then. Does that make you feel better?
It's okay. You can call them friends. It's okay.
They are
I'm not
friends.
that insecure.
That would really be offensive to them, honestly.
I know. I'm like, don't actually to hurt your friends. Like, I'm just being dumb.
Like one of them I've known for like 20 years. So
yeah, I'm just being silly.
Friend, okay?
Yes.
Just being silly. Okay. So here's the first one. So she says, so I love my boss, but she's a little irritating sometimes. So I figured this might be a good story for your podcast. She said, she assigns me work and then does it herself and never tells me. And then expects me to just see it on our team to-do list app. And that app is really annoying to use. So I asked some more questions, okay? So I said, is this like a project management board? And she said, yes. So I don't get a notification if she takes me off of stuff, only if she assigns me things. And then then she'll verbally tell me to do something. And then the next day she's already done it. And when I asked her if she would ping me when she takes the work back, she said it's up to date in the app. So you need to just look in the app that I've taken it back. I asked my friend, I said, like, are you missing any deadlines, or like, what's the reason that she's like pulling it back onto her plate? She said, no, I'm not missing any deadlines. I think she's just getting freed up and then just doing the work, but not communicating it verbally to me. So I asked her, I told her, like, one thing you could do is like, can you change the notification settings so that when she does remove something from your lane, you do get a notification of that? I said, that's like one thing potentially that you could do. But this is just also like poor communication from the manager, in my opinion, of like, well, why are you assigning, or maybe it's like some micromanagement type of control issue or something going on of like, but why take the time to assign me the thing and then you're taking it back like within a day and you're just going ahead and doing it?
Yeah.
It is very odd to me. And so I just wanted to have some discussion around it and see if you had other thoughts as well.
Yeah, I the technology, actually I have two thoughts. So just in terms of the technology, I think you've already communicated to your leader that the system does not work regardless of her action, the activity. We'll touch on the actual what's happening, but you've communicated this system does not work for me though. So we need to update the system because it's not efficient. And the fact that they won't work with you on that, that's frustrating to me, because that is going to be a problem forever. So giving feedback of, hey, our communication system is broken because it's not working for me, which means it doesn't work.
Yeah, like it's not giving me an update when you take the task back. So I still think it's on my plate.
Yes. And then the other piece of, like, oh my gosh, the delegating work takes so much time that if you're just going to, I mean, I'm going to say that and everyone's going to be like, see, that's why I hate doing it. No, but it's something that you do with intention. So to then just take it back within 24 hours to me is such a waste of time that I would need to have a conversation with the leader and be like, is it that you don't think I'm confident I can handle these? Is it that you are struggling with your time management and so now you're freeing up time when you didn't realize you'd have? Are these high value activities for her to even be doing, or is she just defaulting to easier tasks that she knows how to do? I'm assuming it's a she.
Yeah,
because she doesn't want to dig into the higher value things or something like that. Like, what? Why? I need to know why. And I think you need to have a conversation because this is super inefficient and a huge waste of time. And I think that's what you need to lead with.
Yeah. And that was part of what I was communicating with my friend as well. Is like, this is just from an efficiency standpoint, like really inefficient, because like, what if you're already working on the task? And maybe it's not like you're in action on it, because in their project management system, you do switch something to like in progress once they're working on it. And so I guess her manager can see that it's not like in progress yet. But just because like I haven't moved something to in progress doesn't mean that I'm not thinking about it, or I'm not like spending my mental energy trying to figure out when I get to action, like what I'm going to do or what resources I'm going to need. Right. And so it's just really inefficient that she's not communicating also until the task is already done, right? So I'm like, well, what if you were simultaneously working on it and now you're doubling, like now we have a huge redundancy of like you're doubling work because she already assigned it to you. You just went ahead and did it, and now she just went ahead and did it as well. I agree. Like, I want to get to the root of this of like, why are you why just not assign it to me at all then if you're going to do it
yourself?
Like, especially if it's a 24-hour turnaround time. Like, we're not talking about something that's been sitting on my plate for weeks. We're talking about something that like you put on there today and you're doing it by tomorrow. Like, are these things that you need done more urgently? And that needs to be communicated better to me, that like, actually this is a top priority for today, because I can get to it today if you communicate that, right? Like, but it's not being communicated in that way. And then you're just doing it. And so it's not giving me the opportunity to add to my portfolio, to show you what I'm capable of, to do more different types of work, right?
Exactly.
And my friend did mention that like this person is kind of a workaholic. And so like maybe she's taking things on because she wants to like look like she's doing it all, but then it's taking away from you and the projects that you want to have on your plate. And so, or that you should have on your plate, because obviously you are capable of doing them if she was delegating them to you in the first place. So I think there's a trust thing, whether that's like a trust with herself or a trust with you, that I would want to have a conversation with. And also from a systems and process side, like it's really like you were saying, like you're not intentionally delegating these things to me if by the next day you're taking them back. And so if these things do need more urgency, then that's something we can communicate within the app or within a conversation that we're having so that I can reprioritize and get those done in the time frame that you would like, versus you just taking them back on. Like, I don't want you to take them back on. I'm happy to do those things for you and the company. But when they just disappear, it feels really odd. Like it feels like I'm not being trusted, to manage my own work. And so I would definitely have a conversation about that to get to the root of it.
A direct but kind conversation, because you can't, I don't think this is one that you can approach with like, I think it's like, hey, because you've obviously already discussed the system, like how it's not working. And so I think you need to be really direct.
And I did give her, I gave her even like some direct language that I would say like, here's, like, and she was like, I already said that. And she said like, the system is up to date. And so she was like, okay, no, that's not working.
Yeah.
So yeah, needs to be more direct about the communication and about the underlying issues of the process for delegating and prioritization of tasks, not just what is being fed in the system. Like, yes, and I understand the system is up to date,
the severity of causes.
Why are you delegating it to me if you're going to do it yourself?
And just be really clear, like, this is really not working for me. And it's really impacting my enjoyment of this role. So we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This is another one from my friend. Okay. From a different friend.
Yeah. Must be nice to have so many friends.
Okay. So I'll give you a little backstory and then I'll read like an actual email that was sent by the person. So backstory is my friend was at a conference for work. And so she had delegated, coverage of some of her responsibilities. She does like communications for an organization. And so like sometimes she has to like post blog posts or articles through their website. And so it's like, I asked her, I was like, how complicated is this task? She's like, it's really minimal. Like you can do it like sitting on your couch watching TV and you post the thing in 5 minutes, Yeah. She's like, I left like step-by-step instructions for how to do this, but they work in like a timely industry. And so sometimes things need that pop up that aren't necessarily planned, but they do need to be posted within the day or within, 48 hours type of thing. They're timely. And so she was going to be gone all week. And so she had delegated this to someone else who is relatively new to the team, like within 3 months. Okay. So like kind of new, but still. The backstory is also that like this newer person like doesn't really contribute a lot to like the Monday team calls. Like whenever people ask her what she's doing, she's like, nothing. I don't have anything. Make
That's
something
bold
up,
to admit.
like. But she said that like every week, like just like I got like nothing. Which is already like a couple red flags. Okay.
Yeah.
So my friend is at the conference. She sees in her email, which she's not like
supposed to be checking.
She has an out of office responder. So she's like, I'm not going to like do the things, but she sees what's happening. Okay. And what's happening is that there's an article that needs to be posted. And so she's like, just watching, like, is the girl gonna do the thing? Like, is she gonna post it? Like, she has full instructions on how to do it. It's very clear. It doesn't take that long, but is she gonna do it? And so after about a day, there's no response to the email that people had sent her to do the thing. day 2 comes around and there's like all caps in the, in the email subject line, like name, like please post blank article, whatever, or advise like that you can't so that someone else can come in and do it. Spoiler alert, she did not post the thing and her boss ended up just doing it. So like someone who shouldn't be doing this at all ended up posting it. Okay. And then the next day, the perpetrator sends this email. Okay. I'm going to read the email.
Okay.
Hi, all. Name. Thank you for manager name. Thank you for posting that. I didn't know that you had. I apologize for dropping the ball. I have been suffering with a bad migraine for the past couple of days, and it is still ongoing. Every day, I hoped I would have the energy to get this done. I was just about to push through and post it. I will be sure to ask for help more quickly next time. So other than the above, I don't have any updates other than the webinar announcement is in review. I'm hoping to skip today's meeting so I can try to rest and recover. Thank you all for your patience and support. And I'm like flabbergasted by this email for a multitude, and the actions preceding this, okay? Like for a multitude of reasons. But number one, let's just say, give them the benefit of the doubt that they really were sick and they had a bad migraine and they were like unable to open their eyes and do anything.
Totally.
They're like, just because work is remote doesn't mean you don't communicate that you can't come in to work.
Yeah.
Like, because what you're basically saying to me is that you did nothing over these days because you had a bad migraine, but you didn't call in sick. So I think that you're available, but you're not doing anything.
Right.
Even if you have to have someone else call or you just call me, right? You don't need to look at the computer or have your husband call or whatever. Like, so-and-so cannot come in today. Like someone needs to be communicated with.
Totally.
So that we're not depending on you. And so that we know, like, talking about sick days earlier, like it's a sick day, right? Like you call out, you don't just like disappear and not show up. And I think this, remote work, sometimes people think that like, I'm just not going to show up to the office and no one's going to know. And it's like, well, I like to think of remote offices the same as like in-person offices. Would you like, and your communication behavior should be the same. Like, would you just not show up to your physical office? Like,
Never.
No, you would call and tell someone that you can't be there because you're sick or because of X, Y, and Z. And so I think that was like the first issue, is that if you were really truly sick, you should have communicated that and you should have just been off, you know?
Absolutely.
Versus just ghosting us for days and nothing getting done, when we could have handled it much faster if we had known there was absolutely no way you were going to do it because you were off.
Yeah.
So that's my like complaint number one.
100%.
Complaint number two is the victim mentality of the email itself. Like, I was going to push through. Like when I asked my friend about this, that's when I started asking my friend about this task. I was like, this is not like joining a presentation or like delivering something to a client. Like I was like, how rigorous is this activity? And she's like, literally, it is copy pasting, posting stuff. Like, it is so simple. You could do it in 5 minutes. It's not something that you need to like push through to do. So like the over dramatics of it. But I also like, I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt of like, okay, well, if she had like this really bad migraine, like maybe, but no. And then the fact that she's going to skip the meeting after all of that, I'm like, this girl has got, it sounds like a ticking time bomb here to me.
Totally.
Like, you're on borrowed time, sis, because it doesn't sound like you're doing much. But a little communication would go a long way here, right? Like just communicating, I'm sick, I'm going to be out for the next couple days to get better, and then I'll be back and able to give it my all, versus like just disappearing or saying, I think I'm going to skip today's meeting. Like, well, if you're going to skip today's meeting, like, are you sick? Are you off? Or are you back? Because now I'm confused again still.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think all of this could have been avoided with a simple I have a migraine. I'm going to be out for the day. I'll check in tomorrow and let you know, because, you know, sometimes they last a while. Or just preemptively say I'm going to be out for the next, you know, 2 days or something like that. I think not doing that is the issue, which makes this email feel very like weird. Because if you had done that,
Yeah.
and then you come back and you're like, hey, all, like, I'm back to work. Thank you so much for having my back while I was out. I'm still not 100%, but like I'm maybe going to skip today's meeting, but I'm here if you need anything. Like I'm able to communicate, you know, like then that email has a completely different feel if you just started it out differently, you know, because like I can imagine coming back if you've been out unexpectedly and, you know, other people had to really cover for you. Just saying like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for having my back.
Yeah.
Like I'm like at 50%, but I can at least, like, if something else crops up like this, I've got it handled. Or, you know what, I don't. So can someone else keep their eye on what needs to be posted for the next day or something? But yeah, just the lack of communication. It's so it's like basic 101. Even if you were like, you need to tell your place of employment if you're not working. And if you're like you said, if you have a migraine or if you're super, super sick, like there has to be some way. Can you just like voice note someone on your team, like, I'm so sick, talk to you in 2 days, you know, like, can you tell everyone? There's got to be something you could do. Do you have, like you said, I can't imagine just not telling anyone that I'm not working for a few days and not expecting to not get reprimanded for that.
Just disappearing.
Yeah.
Not responding to emails that are like
my job,
quite urgent and timely.
Yeah. No. Could never.
Yeah. Just for like extra fun. My friend, like when this person sent this email, she accidentally didn't even reply all. So she only replied to my friend. So my friend had to forward it to everyone else because she didn't even send it to the right people.
It's like the icing, it's the cherry on top, you know?
So I feel like something else is going on, you know, like.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, good luck.
Sounds like you might be getting a new coworker soon.
Yeah. Tell us all about your new coworker when they start. Like,
yeah. Oh my God.
I love people.
So, yikes.
Just kidding.
Okay.
Don't.
I have a couple more, but I'm trying to pick which one I want to do.
Okay.
Let's do this one. Okay. Poor communication with my boss. So my boss gave me a task and I couldn't quite understand what she needed from me. She explained everything over chat, like written chat, but I just couldn't understand what she wanted. So I asked her 3 different times over the course of 10 to 15 minutes if we could just have a video call to go over the task, which involved some data calculations.
Yeah.
I thought that perhaps if she could screen share with me, it would be easier to see what she wanted with the data. Anyway, she neither accepted nor rejected my request, and she just flat out stopped answering after my 3rd request. So I ended up just trying to do it on my own. What could I have done differently?
Nothing. Unless being very clear. So I am the type of person where I do not absorb or understand things very well when they're written. I can read, obviously, and like I enjoy reading books, but I don't remember the details. You know, like I'm reading some book series right now and I don't remember half of what happened. You know, I'm here for a good time, not a long time when it comes to reading things. Yeah. I don't retain information very well. I need to be listening to it, or even better, like talking to someone about it. So I can ask questions as they come up, watching someone do something. IKEA instructions are the literal bane of my existence. You know what I mean? But give me a video, I'm fine. So the fact that this person just like wouldn't accommodate your learning style to me is wild. I would have flat out said, I'm not going to be able to complete this if we don't get on a call. And if they won't get on a call with you, then I made myself clear. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, like even if they, for some reason, and maybe there's, you know, you ask like what you could do differently. Like maybe that was a bad time for the person. Yeah. So like maybe even just communicating like when would be a good time for us to get on a quick call to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of like the urgency of the project, but I wanted to get started on it, but I'm still unclear on X, Y, and Z things. And I really would need you to share your screen and walk through those data calculations. Like, does any other time today work for 10 to 15 minutes? Or could you record a video for me talking through those things if for some reason you can't physically meet for a video chat? Because I agree, like some people are just not going to get it, and some certain types of work are also much more conducive to visual explanations, and it sounds like there's calculations and things that we need to do that are maybe a little bit more complex, that we want to make sure. And you could also position this from an efficiency standpoint. I want to make sure I do it right the first time versus us having to go back and do it and I'm not quite understanding like the calculations here or what needs to be done. And this is an important part of the training and delegation and onboarding process that your supervisor, your boss is missing. And I think that this is common for a lot of managers, CEOs, like small business owners. Like they want people to be able to be 5 steps ahead of them. They want them to be able to complete the tasks, but they're unwilling to actually provide the training and resources and support for someone to be able to do it well. And so you have to, this person, like you need to slow down. You need to understand that this is not an annoyance that someone doesn't know how to do this from your explanation. Rather, maybe it's because you're explaining it poorly, right? Like maybe it's you, maybe it's not them, that there's some idiot that can't understand it. Maybe it's you that is not doing a good job. And this is like a different comparison, but I'm in this like group where people are like trying to, like a Facebook group where people are trying to grow their social media channels. And, you know, part of the process is like looking at your data and letting the data tell you like what is working and what is not working. And a lot of people want to pass the blame on like the algorithm. It sucks. Like I'm never gonna, it's like, well, what if the algorithm was true? Like, what if the algorithm was telling you that like your content was not good? Like, what if that was the feedback and you could just be less defensive about it, right? And instead improve the content, right? Instead of getting all upset and all like panties in a bundle of like, this must be wrong or they must be doing this and I don't know how this works. So it's like, well, maybe it's just that you don't want to hear that, right? And same thing with like managers, supervisors, like maybe it's just that you are doing a poor job of explaining it and you just don't want to hear that. But that is actually the truth. And until you accept that, then you're going to have challenges with getting people to perform at your expectations, right? Because they can't if you don't give them the appropriate training. And this sounds like this person is unfortunately not supportive of giving you the type of training that you need to do a task really well. So if this doesn't improve, I would be looking for a new job because this is just going to continue. And if you're someone that wants to be a high performer, like you're going to struggle in this situation. So
100%. I totally agree.
That's all I had.
Some more drama on this show. What would we disagree on? Like, what would we disagree on? I don't know. We're going to have to find some.
You mean like more drama between us?
Yeah. It's not an entertaining podcast if we're both just like, yep, you're totally right. So this can be my mission.
All right. Next episode, I'm going to try
to find some topics.
It's hard
when we share one brain cell to find things we don't agree on, though.
I know. Well, if anyone has any topics that they think we would disagree on, please submit them. Yeah. Please say, you guys need to talk about this. Okay.
Perfect. I would love that. Tell us what
Bring
to
it
talk
on.
about.
Bring it on.
And we have some
That's all I got.
Yeah. We have some requests of you though. If you could submit those stories at dearworkwives.com. If you could share this with your friends, that would be really generous of you. You could leave us a review. You could subscribe. There's lots of ways. We know we're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on the Gram. We're on all your podcast players. You could watch the video on Spotify or YouTube. You can consume this so many different ways, but help us out and do that and share it.
Do that. We need more people to listen to the show if Emily's going to let me continue to have this show. So,
I mean, she said what she said. We also need to do more to grow it. So
that's right.
So help us out. Help us help you.
Maybe disagreeing on things will help our algorithm, help the algorithm.
Right, if we had some
content.
drama. That's what I'm saying. So we need to manufacture some drama.
All right, clickbait. I'm here for it.
Okay.
Next episode, you'll be finding the drama. Watch out, people. We're going to disagree on everything. But we'll see you next Tuesday.
We'll see you next Tuesday.